Good morning. Thank you, Todd, for that generous introduction. For those of you who are not familiar with MALDEF, we are a now 50-year-old national civil rights organization whose mission is to promote the civil rights of all Latinos living in the United States. We were founded in 1968 in San Antonio, Texas, and in the last half-century have worked through the legal system to promote the rights of Latinos and everyone in America in the areas of education, employment, immigrant rights, and voting rights. Voting has been central to the last half-century's work as we have struggled through the decades to ensure initially that Latinos were not completely excluded from participation in the electoral system, meaningful participation, meaning translating into folks they actually supported being in office, and in more recent decades, fighting against those who would deter or even prevent the ascendance to power of more and more Latinos in local and state communities across the country. Indeed, throughout our history, we've had to fight against redistricting schemes that violate the rights of Latinos from state to state. Often the state of Texas, where we were founded, where we have had to litigate against redistricting once, and in the last 2 decades, twice each decade to ensure that Latinos received the representation to which they are entitled. For example, this last decade, when Texas was the big winner in the reapportionment lottery following the census, gaining 4 congressional seats, 60% of the population growth of the state that resulted in those 4 seats came from the Latino community. Yet the Texas legislature, in its initial maps adopted in 2011, allocated exactly 0 of those 4 new seats to the Latino community. It's that kind of structural process, structural discrimination that we have fought against over the years. More recently, for example, following the Supreme Court's abhorrent decision in Shelby County, preventing the continued use of the powerful preclearance mechanism of the Voting Rights Act, we had to sue the city of Pasadena, Texas, which decided to switch from 8 districted city council seats to 6 districted seats and 2 at-large. The sole reason the mayor proposed and then secured the adoption of that change was to prevent the ascendant Latino community, already a majority of the population, from electing a majority of the city council. Despite victory in that case, we still today face an additional proposal very similar to that in Pasadena out of Odessa, Texas. So we understand at MALDEF very clearly the importance of structures of elections, structures of democratic participation, and how they can be used against minority communities. We also understand how changes in those structures can benefit all of us, including minority communities. MALDEF is proud to have been a co-sponsor of the landmark California Voting Rights Act, enacted some decade and a half ago, that has already resulted in dozens of local bodies, city councils, school districts, community college districts, special districts, switching from at-large elections to districted elections that ensure that communities that never had someone residing in them now have a resident on the city council, on the school board, ensuring that minority communities are heard and represented on city councils and school boards. So MALDEF is very pleased. So I, as president of MALDEF, am very pleased to have been here for this first Unrigged Summit, working with all of you, dialoguing with all of you, looking forward to collaborating with all of you at changing electoral structures that limit participation of minorities and others and do not live up to the full promise of our Constitution. I want to close by saying one thing that maybe has not been said. But in the course of our work, we have also concluded at MALDEF that sometimes ensuring that electoral processes work means reducing the amount of offices that we vote for. Yes, I think that there are too many elections in a long and complicated ballot. Too many voters are not able to become informed voters in making decisions, and we should work to eliminate the elections applied to certain positions. First on that list is judges. In my home state of California, and across the country, too often voters are asked to vote on judges about whom they know nothing. So we've seen examples of judges voted out by lawyers with no experience. Why? Because the judge had a foreign-sounding name and the challenger had a quintessentially American name. But I want to end by adding one more to that list where we should reconsider, in my view, popular elections, and that is the office of sheriff. Too often we have seen folks like Joe Arpaio, folks in California like Donnie Youngblood and Scott Jones, who have not lived up to what we expect from sheriffs. We have seen police chiefs, by contrast, who may not be perfect, but are held accountable by elected officials on city councils and mayors, and seem to do a better job of actually living up to what they need to do. So I end by saying thank you for allowing us to participate. We look forward to working with all of you on exploring new electoral structures to ensure democratic participation for all, and I hope that that includes looking at the kinds of offices that we should vote for and those that we should not. Thank you.